thank you again for coming. It's really exciting. Hope just as much for you as for us. My name is Laszlo Gombos. I'm leading the web team in US. And I'm going to talk a little bit more in depth about what we're excited about Samsung Internet and how is this set apart from other browsers, just going a little bit more in depth from what we heard in the keynote. So hopefully what you're going to get out of this talk is that you'll have a better understanding how this browser, this Android browser, fits into the larger web ecosystem. What are the features that sets us apart in the community? And how do we actually work together with other browsers and the entire web community and just standardization? So for Samsung, we essentially driving a new philosophy for this product. This product, as mentioned before, is no longer tied to a particular hardware or a particular OS or firmware release. This browser is now independently updatable and downloadable, as mentioned before. Multi-device support means it works with other Samsung devices, but it also means that it works in non-Samsung devices as well. Specifically, our latest release is available on all Galaxy devices as well as non-Samsung devices from Android L, OS, and higher. So it's a wide range of devices. We committed to frequently update the browser. This means that you're getting all the security patches that you expect from an evergreen browser, again, independently from firmware updates. And we also committed to essentially share our roadmap because in public betas, you will have a sense of what features are coming, and we're going to listen to your feedback and take that into account for the stable release. So very specifically, our latest version is 7.0. That launched together with Galaxy S9, but again, it's available on other devices as well. And we're working towards the 7.2 stable release. So right now, the 7.2 beta is available in Play Store. So if you have an Android device, you can just go to Play Store and download it. So one of the feature sets that we are really excited about is something we call extensions, Samsung Internet extensions. The definition of an extension is essentially a browser feature that is not required for a core browser functionality. You can turn these extensions on and off and still browse the web, but obviously they impact the browser functionality. Some extensions are built in and come with the browser. Some are downloadable as a plugin. The extension interface is actually public. So if you go to this URL below, you'll have a sense of what it takes to create a browser extension. So this is at the moment Samsung specific, but it resembles some of the other extension interfaces that other browsers have. Few extensions that I would like to highlight is one of them is a QR code reader. So this is built in right in the browser. This is very popular in Asia. Enables you to read and launch QR code-based websites and URLs. Another extension is our video assistant. This allows you to essentially pop out any video from any website and continue browsing while the video is playing, sort of overlay to the page. And another extension category is something we call content blocking. This is primarily used for ad blocking, but that's not the only intent. It allows, for example, third parties to create tracking blocking and other sort of blocking technologies as well. One important design principle behind content blocking is privacy. We actually don't share the URLs with the content blocking providers because these are third parties. The content blocking rules are executed by the engine. And the extension only gives us the rules. That's the only visibility the extensions get. And lastly, one of the extensions I want to highlight is our partnership with Amazon. They have an extension that allows you, that facilitates online shopping. So if you, for example, shopping on Walmart, an overlay might pop up if you enable and opt in to this extension. That would tell you and indicate you if there are reviews or alternative prices available for the product that you're about to shop for. So this was one category of features that we're proud of. Another one is around VR and AR. So we're really passionate about bringing web to VR, and this means many things. One of them is that we created a VR-first browser back about 2 years ago. So what this means is that we completely reimagined what it takes to browse the web in VR, and we built a browser specifically for VR. So VR is not sort of an extension for this product, but it's specifically only built for VR, and it's one of the top apps in the VR ecosystem. We all trying to understand how VR can get more traction and how to create more content for VR. And we think web is key for that because we can bring the existing web content to VR experiences. We're also working together very closely with other web engine providers, specifically Mozilla and Google, to look into how we can use web technologies to create sort of first-class VR experiences where the entire VR experience is driven by the web content. And essentially, your web content is not just a 2D experience, but it progressively enhances itself. So one of the ways this progressive enhancement could work is in the following scenario where you're browsing the web on your mobile phone as a 2D experience, and you don't really specifically looking for VR content, but you might stumble upon something that looks better in VR. This could be a 3D object, a web 3D object, or a 360 video. If that's the case, and if you decide to do so, you can just dock your phone into Gear VR, and then the same web page loads in the same context than we had in your mobile experience. So all your bookmarks and other mobile browser states are right there with you, but you can enjoy the same content sort of in a more immersive way. WebVR is sort of the last piece of this puzzle. This allows you to create entirely VR experiences just using web technologies. This relies on a few experimental standards that we're working together with other browser vendors. This is what people refer to as WebVR. So what does that actually mean that we're working with the community? It means that we're working on demos, trying to highlight to the community what this technology is best used for. We're organizing workshops both in terms of creating the standard itself, the JavaScript API itself, as well as inviting WebVR authors to collect their requirements and feed that into standardization. We're also working with other sort of organizations such as the fashion domain or museums to figure out how best use this technology. Another area is WebAR that we're exploring. One reason why this is exciting because it doesn't necessarily require another device. You can just use your mobile phone and essentially overlay 3D objects on top of your environment. So we think that the potential addressable market for this is potentially larger than for VR. One of the specific success stories we have is with Burger King. We had a collaboration where Burger King was promoting some of their products, and they used WebAR for that. So that URL is actually live today, and it is working in most recent Android browsers, including in our browser. here are a few more WebEx VR demos that our team worked on. They all sort of highlight one particular area of where VR and AR can be used in a real-life scenario. I encourage you to visit our Medium post where you find more information about these demos. The link's going to be in the end of the presentation. On that note, we also going to have many Web AR and Web VR talks later today and tomorrow, so please visit those. And lastly, I would like to talk about web payment. We're quite passionate about online shopping. And as part of that, we looked into how can we actually increase the conversion rate online when it comes to people checking out. And one of the area of friction that we found is that it's really cumbersome to type credit card numbers over and over again during shopping. So we worked with other vendors to see what the browser can do to facilitate the actual checkout flow. How can we make the checkout better? As a result of this work, there's a new standard called web payment. So the main idea is that the browser itself is responsible for the final checkout step. And the browser will have enough information to facilitate the payment transaction itself. This can work with existing credit cards or can work with payment providers as well, such as Samsung Pay or Android Pay. Again, we're going to have more talks on web payment later today, so please visit them. But this is an area that will, if you're selling something online in your website, this is going to immediately improve your conversion rate. So this shows the actual flow. Essentially, if all your information is set up, then the website just makes a JavaScript API request called payment request that I want to get paid, and this is the amount, how much I want to get paid. And then the user just enters, in this particular case, a Samsung Pay PIN, or using fingerprint authentication, and the payment is processed. This is not only more convenient for the users, but also more secure. Because as an example, in case of Samsung Pay, the credit card is tokenized, and there is less opportunity for fraud. And with that, I would like to give it up for Dan to talk about privacy and other features that sets us apart from other browsers.
Thanks, Laszlo. Much appreciated. And can I just add my voice of welcome to everybody who came along today. Just parenthetically, we really hope you enjoy this event. A lot of the team, we all work together to put this event together, and this is the kind of event that we like to attend. That's the reason why this event is run this way. So we really hope that you enjoy it as well. So the privacy, just to follow on from what Laszlo was talking about, and maybe Song mentioned as well earlier, privacy is something that we take really seriously in the platform. We recently launched protected browsing mode to keep people safe from malware. We've been seeing a rise in especially malware that tries to trick users into various things, into downloading viruses, that kind of thing, and so this is becoming super important. Tracking blocker is something that we innovated on in terms of we were one of the first major browsers that launched the extension API that allowed you to install ad blockers and tracking blockers in the first place. And then last year, we actually bundled the disconnect tracking blocker into the browser so that it's purely one click to activate it. And I'm really glad to hear that we're going to be introducing Do Not Track in the future, because Do Not Track flag is something that's pretty important for European data protection, e-privacy stuff that's coming up. As well, in addition to kind of secret mode, and ID protection with Knox. One of the other key privacy enablers that we have is allowing you to set DuckDuckGo as your default search. A lot of people don't know DuckDuckGo. Who here knows about DuckDuckGo? Okay, so we have a lot of hands. That's good, right? Like DuckDuckGo is getting more traction these days. I'm actually using DuckDuckGo as my default search on all devices because I wanted to try it, and honestly, it's been fairly good, I think. So I'm finding fewer and fewer times when I actually need to go default back to Google. So I'm very happy with them. Also, DuckDuckGo is a progressive web app, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about progressive web apps as well. So progressive web apps, we're going to hear more about progressive web apps today from a lot of people. It's a technology that we're very invested in. It's something that I've been working on from even before I joined Samsung, and was one of the reasons that I joined Samsung is because this technology was so key to the browser. And in fact, it's something that Samsung has been investing in through development time, through standards. So it has been part of the kind of a call or the technology forces that have been pushing this technology to market. It basically allows you to save web apps to a home screen, offers offline support and push notifications. So having a website as an icon on your home screen that can come up in a Chromeless view without the URL bar, if the developer so wants it, and allowing offline support and push notifications. Those are three things that developers, native developers, have been asking for the web for ages. Now we have those things, and those are features through the standards that implement them are supported across browsers. So even though this is something that we were first to market actually on a lot of this stuff, it's also supported across other browsers as well, and we encourage that because in order for it to make sense for web developers, it's got to be supported across browsers, even browsers that we don't like to talk about. Okay, so so we've been leading standardization, we've been contributing into open source, we've been innovating with the Save to Home screen icon, which is the little home icon with the plus symbol in it that indicates this is a web app that you can save to home screen. And then also we developed the community-supported logo. That was actually, it was Diego who is going to be joining us later in the event who created that logo, which has now been adopted by the community, and we're seeing it in the presentations of a lot of other presenters who are talking about progressive web apps. Basic screen flow or the user flow is not that difficult for progressive web apps. It's where you go to a web app, in this case Twitter, you can save it to your home screen, and then once you save it to your home screen like that, it appears to the user like any other application. So this is a really good choice for people that want to get their apps into the user's hands. A lot of key brands or very famous brands are supporting progressive web apps. Last year we saw, last year kicked off with Twitter kind of launching Twitter Lite. FT has been there from the beginning with supporting progressive web apps technologies. Lyft, both Lyft and Uber have versions that are progressive web apps versions. Later last year we saw Starbucks launch a progressive web app including Starbucks payment. We're seeing CNET, all kinds. Every week I'm seeing another brand launching a progressive web app version either as their primary version of the app that they're pushing to users or as a web version of a mobile application. So that's really exciting to see. A couple of other features that we are focusing on, which are more kind of Samsung Internet specific features, are things like our desktop sync extension, where we're allowing you to sync bookmarks and other metadata to your desktop or laptop with either Chrome or Firefox. So that's very exciting for us. For those who don't know what DeX is a kind of you can see it up here on the right. It's a kind of docking station that you can plug your phone into and use it in a desktop mode. We're seeing this being picked up a lot in the enterprise, where people want to be mobile and they want to move from desk to desk, and where you have mobile sales forces, for instance, and they want to have just one device that they carry around. So it provides a kind of Android desktop experience. So we built features into Samsung Internet that are specific to DeX, like for instance, being able to save a web app to your home screen and have that come up as a separate window in the same way that progressive web apps come up in a Chromeless view on the mobile. So we think that's a pretty amazing, actually, desktop browser experience, even though we're a mobile-specific browser. Finally, I wanted to get into some of the areas where we're working with the community, and this is something that I get very passionate about. I do a lot of work in W3C myself, which is the standards body that governs things that standards of the web. So we have a leadership position there where we have been pushing forward the service worker specification, for instance, which is part of the progressive web apps stack. I co-chair a group in W3C called the Technical Architecture Group with Sir Tim Berners-Lee, who's the only famous person I know, so I have to drop his name. It's basically a review group and an architecture board that is a steering committee for future web standards, and we kind of review the entire web platform inside and outside of W3C. We've also been working in things like web payment and web VR, where we have people that are on those committees that are helping to write those specs and that are bringing the learnings back into Samsung. So, and we're playing a leadership role with web VR industry by running various workshops, by working with content creators, and a lot of this is being folded then back into our work in the Chromium platform, where as the second largest contributor to Chromium, we're really pushing a lot of stuff into open source. We've got engineers in Suwon, in Samsung Americas, and in Bangalore that are all working on pushing our work into the Chromium open source platform. So that's very exciting. And Hee-Jin, my colleague Hee-Jin and Laszlo are going to have a talk later where we're going to talk more about our philosophy around that and all the work that we're doing in open source, which I strongly suggest you take a look at. And as well, we're on the web developer advocacy side of things, that's kind of the team that I joined to start. And we have a number of the team members here who are going to be giving talks throughout the 2 days coming. What our philosophy around web advocacy or web developer advocacy is that our developer advocates are coders and developers first and foremost, and advocates also advocates. So they're writing open source web apps, web app demos and tools. They're contributing into open source projects such as A-Frame and other technologies. They're blogging on our Medium blog. They're writing developer documentation, which we also publish on our developer hub. We're tweeting on Samsung Internet. We're using Facebook. We're speaking at developer events. We're running our own developer events. This is our first major developer event that we've run over 2 days. We've also run a couple of evening events and that kind of thing previously. And we are putting diversity and inclusion at the heart of our work, which is related to, why we're here, why you have such a great lineup of speakers that we have, and how we how we expect to deal with the developer community, basically, and that's our expectation of the developer community. So in Reach, we're also advocating for the developer community back into the platform. We're doing bug reporting, we're doing feature requests, we're doing developer support, roadmap prioritization, and we're working with other developer advocacy groups and key partners. So some of whom are represented here today and tomorrow. So we've got people from Mozilla, we got people from Microsoft, we got people coming from Google, that are all of the people that we work with in the web community to push a lot of these features forward. We also work on joint projects to explore and highlight emerging tech. So there's one really cool project that we worked on last year that I wanted to highlight, which was, if you're familiar with Doctor Who, we worked with BBC to help them put together a web VR game, which was called Time Vortex VR. So I and the rest of the web advocates were based in the UK, so we have a good relationship with BBC people. And BBC was really keen on using WebVR to get this particular experience out to users because they wanted to get it to the most number of users possible rather than targeting a specific VR platform. So they came to us. We really helped them out getting up to speed on the technology. And the result was amazing. And this is a screenshot from the case study that was produced by Good Boy, which is the studio that produced the game on behalf of BBC. And I'll tweet that URL out later because it includes a lot of really good information about why they chose WebVR and how we worked with them to help bring that to market. So that's very cool. Also, we're an international team. We're an international team, we're a diverse team, and I mentioned that we have engineers here. We have engineers in Bangalore and Suwon and all places. So we're really proud of that Samsung developer team, engineering team, which is across 3 continents. Finally, I wanted to leave you with a couple of quotes that I really liked from the press around what we're doing with Samsung Internet. So what Wired had to say about us, this mobile browser built specifically for Samsung devices, but people liked it so much that we made it available on other Android phones. And that's true, really. We got a lot of really good feedback, so we decided, hey, let's make this available on other phones. And it's great to see Wired recognizes in this way. You might not think that I would put this quote up on a slide, but I really, really enjoyed this quote as well. I just want to read it out. This is from Android Authority. They were putting together a list of best Android browsers. We feel a little dirty putting an OEM, that means original equipment manufacturer, browser on a best Android browsers list. However, Samsung Internet browser is surprisingly good. When I read that, it filled my heart with joy. Okay? No, seriously, because it is a kind of indication that we're defying expectations. We're doing something new. What Laszlo mentioned about a new philosophy for Samsung really is showing and is making people notice what we're doing. So I'm very happy about that, and I'm very happy about that we're going to take that philosophy to this 2-day event, and you're going to hear from a lot of people talking about a lot of these technologies in more depth. So thank you. That's about it for me. I appreciate your time, and I welcome you.